Welcome to A-Level and AP Physics. In today's lesson, we will discuss past paper questions from May June 2023, Paper 1, Variant 1. In today's lesson, our main focus will be on mechanics questions, and we will discuss these questions in detail so you can improve your conceptual understanding of mechanics, and also you can have better understanding of these exam questions. Let's study together, let's improve together. In today's class, we are talking about May June 2023, Paper 1, Variant 1. Total time for this exam is 1 hour and 15 minutes, and there are 40 questions on this paper. You need to answer all of them. And the total mark for this paper is 40. On second page of exam paper, you can find some important data and also you can find some important formulae. So in the exam, if you need value of any constants, you can come to the second page of exam paper and you can find values of constants. And also some basic formulae are given to you. If you have forgotten any formulae, you can come to this page and you can double check. Question 1 says, which unit is not an SI base unit? We have 7 SI base units. So if you look at the first unit, this is ampere and this is SI base unit of electric current. So this is right. kg, this is SI base unit of mass. Coulomb. Coulomb is not SI base unit, and also this is not SI base quantity, because charge is not SI base quantity. So our answer for this question has to be C, because this is not SI base quantity. So charge is not SI base quantity. Second, this is unit of time, and time is SI base quantity, and this is SI base unit. So the answer for this question is C. Question 2 says, what is the best estimate of the number of atoms in a piece of metal of volume 50 cubic centimeters? For this question, we need to calculate the number of atoms. So if we have the volume of single atom, we can calculate the number of atoms. Means we can divide the given volume by volume of single atom and we can figure out number of atoms. And in order to find volume of single atom, we need diameter or radius of single atom. So we will start with diameter of single atom. Diameter of single atom, simply we can say, is equal to 1.0 times 10 to minus 10 meters. And this number is important. You need to remember diameter of single atom. From here we can find out volume of single atom. So we can write on volume will be equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. Pi r cube. So we can simplify this. We can write on 4 by 3 pi. So we have diameter divided by 2. So this is the radius. And if we simplify this one, we will get 4 by 3 pi d cube divided by 8. So we can cancel 8 with 4. So we will get 2 here. So finally we will get here. This is pi by 6 d cube. Now we can plug in value of this diameter. So we can write down here, this is pi by 6, diameter is 1.0 times 10 to minus 10 cube of this one. So if we solve this, we will get 1.0 times 10 to minus 30 meters cube. Approximate this one. This value is approximate. We will get approximate answer up to this value. So this is the approximate value. Little bit smaller, but we are writing the approximate. We just need to estimate. So you can approximate this is equal to this. Now simply we can divide. So we can find out the number of atoms now. Number of atoms. So we have to calculate number of atoms. So number of atoms will be equal to the total volume, means the volume given to us, divided by volume of single atom. So we have volume of single atom. So volume of single atom. So total volume we have, that is 50 cubic centimeters. So this is 50 cubic centimeters. And this volume we have, this is equal to 1.0 times 10 to minus 30, means about this value. Now we need to change this unit. So we need to understand 1 centimeter. This is equal to 10 to minus 2 meters. And if we take cube on both sides, this will be equal to 10 to minus 6 cubic meters. So this is the point you need to understand, how to convert units. So here we have 50 times 10 to minus 6. This is meter cube, and this is also meter cube. So here we have 1.0 times 10 to minus 30 meters cube. And now we can cancel this. Meter cube we can cancel with meter cube. So if we simplify, we will get about 5.0 times 10 to 25. 10 to 25. So these are the number of atoms in 50 cubic centimeters of metal. So the answer for this question is B. So B is the right answer. So this is how you can figure out. So this is how you can figure out. You can see there is a big difference. So this approximation is a very good one because it will make your calculation simpler. So you can say this is 25, this is 15. So you can approximate equal to this value. So this is about 0.5. So we are just using 1.0 to make calculation simpler because in the exam time is limited. Question 3 says a copper pipe has a true diameter of 42.03 millimeters. A builder measures the diameter of the pipe 5 times using digital calipers. The measurements are shown in the table, which describes the builder's measurements. So first of all, in this case, we need to understand what is meaning of accurate. Accurate means that measured value is close to true value. If the measured value is close to true value, it means measurements are accurate. So if you look at true value, we have in this case that is equal to 42.03 millimeters. We can calculate the mean value of this one, and the mean value will be about 48.00. So you can see these two values are not close to each other. So it simply means that not accurate. So these measurements are not accurate. So this is one thing we can say about the measurements. Now we need to look at precision. Values are precise if they are close to each other. The range is very small, so we can calculate range in this case. We have the maximum value, that is 48.01, minus we can write down minimum value 47.99. So in this case, range is about 0.02 millimeters. So the range is very narrow, and you can also see these values are very close to each other. It means these values are precise. So these measurements are not accurate, but these measurements are precise because readings are close to each other. So the answer for this question is D, precise but not accurate. Measurements can be precise, but measurement cannot be accurate. It is also possible measurements are not precise, but measurements are accurate. Accuracy and precision, these are two different terms. So they do not depend on each other. So these are independent two terms. So this concept has to be very clear in your mind. Question 4 says two forces each of 10 newtons act at a point P as shown in the figure. The angle between directions of the forces is 120 degrees. What is the magnitude of the resultant force? So we need to find out the magnitude of resultant force. Simply, we need to add these two forces. So for this question, it is given to us that angle between these two forces is 120 degrees. So simply what we can do is we can draw first of all this arrow, and then we can move this arrow. We can move this vector from here. We can move this one in backward direction. Now you can see here we can add these two vectors now, because we have to follow head to tail method when we add vectors. Head to tail method. So this is very important one. So that's the reason I move this vector from here to here. So I can follow head to tail method and I can find the resultant vector of these two vectors. So now we need to find out the sum of these two, and the sum will be the vector starting from the tail of first vector to the head of last vector. And so this is our resultant. Now if this angle is 120 degrees, how about the angle between these two vectors now? This angle. So this angle is 60 degrees. We can say this one is A, so this vector is 10 newtons, and this vector we can say is B. This is also 10 newtons. So we need to find out C. Now simply we can use cosine law. So we can write down cosine law. Cosine law. According to cosine law, if you have angle between two vectors, we can write down the C square in this case will be equal to A square plus B square minus 2AB, and the angle between two vectors, cosine of angle between these two vectors is 60 degrees. So this is how we can find out C. So C will be equal to A square plus B square minus 2AB cosine of 60 degrees. So we can take root of this. So we can write down here, so we have 10 square plus we have 10 square minus we have 2, so here we have 10, here we have 10, and cosine of 60 degrees, this is 1 by 2. So this is 1 by 2. So we have to take the root of this. So here we have 100 plus 100, so simply we have 200 minus we have 200. And this 2 we can cancel with this 2, so we have 100 here. So simply we left with 100, so we have to take the root of this, so this is equal to 10. So this is 10 newtons. So the answer for this question is B. The common misconception with many students is when they see this one, they assume angle between two vectors is 120, and they can simply use cosine law and they get wrong answer. So you need to apply first of all head to tail method, then you need to figure out the angle. Very important point. And this question is a repeated question. You can also see in other papers. So this is a repeated one. Question 5 says one object moves directly from P to R. In a shorter time, a second object moves from P to Q and then from Q to R. Which statement about the two objects is correct for the journey from P to R? So first of all, if you look at P goes from P to R directly. So this is the journey of P to R. And the second object, it travels from P to Q, goes like this, and then from Q to R. So this is the journey of the second object. So what is the displacement? So the displacement of first object is from P to R, so the displacement is this one. How about the displacement of the second, also from the initial to the final position? So the displacement of second object is also the same. So they have different distance, but they have the same displacement. So the answer for this question has to be C. They have the same average velocity? No, because one has shorter time. So the average velocity, also important concept. So this is displacement over time. So this is displacement over time taken. Over time. If they have the same time, displacement they have the same, so this quantity is the same. If they have the same time, the average velocity also will be the same, but the average speed will be different. But in this case, this time is not the same because it is given to us in a shorter time. So these two objects, they do not have the same time. So the average velocity is not the same because second object, this time is shorter. So the second object has higher average velocity. So very important concept. And average speed is the distance. So average speed, this is total distance over time taken. So we can say this is total distance over time taken. So this is, so distance and displacement, these are two different quantities. So the average velocity and average speed are also different. So you have to be clear about these concepts. Question 6 says a ball is kicked so that it has an initial velocity of 12 meters per second at an angle of 50 degrees to horizontal ground. Assume that air resistance is negligible. We need to find out what is the maximum height above the ground that is reached by the ball. So we need to find the maximum height reached by the ball. So this is parabolic path, mean this ball will follow this trajectory, this parabolic path. So this is the maximum height. For this question we need to find out value of this maximum height. And when the ball is at maximum height, vertical component of velocity will be equal to 0. We need to find maximum height, so in this case simply we can consider vertical motion only. We have to find height, so we will consider only vertical motion only. Acceleration is constant, so we can simply use 2as is equal to v square minus u square. We need to find out s. We can rearrange, we can write on v square minus u square divided by 2g. Now we need to take one direction as positive. In this case we will take up is positive because vertical displacement will be positive if you take up is positive. So if we take up is positive, so it means that this v will be positive but g will be negative. So we will write on here this is u 0 square because final velocity at this point is equal to 0, vertical component. U initial we have, so we have initial, this is 12 and the vertical component is this one. So this is vertical component of initial velocity and this one is horizontal. And vertical component we can write down, this is 12 sine of 50 degrees. So we have 12 sine of 50 degrees, so this is 50 degrees square divided by 2 times minus 9.81, so this is negative. Now if we solve this one, in this case our final answer should be equal to 4.3 meters. Then this answer will be positive. So this is how we can answer this question, a typical question about projectile motion. So the answer for this question is C. Question 7 says a camera drone of mass 1.20 kg hovers at a fixed point above the ground. The drone has 4 propellers. In a time of 1.00 seconds, each propeller pushes a mass of 0.40 kg of air vertically downwards. Assume that air above the propellers is stationary. What is the speed of the air leaving each propeller? So in this case, first of all, it is given to us this drone is at a fixed point, as fixed height. It simply means that the weight of the drone is acting downwards and there is force on the drone by air that is pushing this drone in upward direction, because drone will push on the air in downward direction and air will push on the drone in upward direction. Very important point, even you can answer this question. The concept you need to understand why the drone is at one point and stationary, it's not moving vertically up and down. So because drone is pushing on the air in downward direction and as a reaction air is pushing on drone in upward direction, so that's the reason this is not falling. So this is the force by air. So this is the force by air. So in this case mg we have, because we have the mass of the drone, so we need to calculate this force. If we have calculated this force, then we can calculate the speed from here. So in this case simply we will write down mg, this is equal to F air, and F air, this is the resultant force on the air because drone is pushing air in downward direction. So this resultant force will be equal to delta mv over delta t. So this is delta mv over delta t. So we can write down this is mg, here we have v, and here we have this is delta m over delta t, delta m over delta t. In this case v we need to find out. v we have to figure out. M is given to us. M is equal to 1.20. We can multiply this one with 9.81. Value of v we need to figure out. But mass propelled by each propeller per second we have, that is 0.40, and in 1 second time is 1 second, so 1.00 seconds. We have to multiply this one by 4 because this has 4 propellers. So from here then we can figure out value of v. So v in this case will be equal to 7.36 meters per second. So this is how we can calculate value of v. Is a typical question. So in this case, weight is balanced by force on drone by air. So air is pushing on the drone in upward direction and drone is pushing on air in downward direction, and that is the resultant force on air. So that's the reason we can use F is equal to rate of change of momentum. Very important concept. This is a proper way to understand this concept. So the answer for this question is C, and this is a typical question. They will ask you this question in different ways in almost every paper. So you need to understand the resultant force. This is the F net. This is equal to rate of change of momentum. So very important one. Every year there will be one question about this equation. Question 8 says a box rests on the earth as shown in the figure. Newton's third law describes how forces of the same type act in pairs. One of the forces of a pair is the weight of the box. Weight of the box is the gravitational force on the box. Gravitational force on box by earth. So this is by earth. And the reaction force will be gravitational force. It has to be the same type, so it has to be gravitational force on earth by the box, so this is the point you need to understand. So these two forces, they will form a pair. So we have in this case W, so this is acting on the box, and A is the force acting on the earth. So these two forces, they form a pair. So the answer for this question is A. Same type of forces acting on two different objects, same magnitude but opposite in direction. Question 9 says a small ball is held at the surface of liquid oil in a container. The ball is released from rest and falls through the oil. The ball has velocity v. A viscous drag force F acts on the ball. Which graph could show the variation with v of F? So for this case, simply we need to understand viscous force means the F, this drag force increases with speed. So as speed increases, drag force will also increase. At low speed, F is directly proportional to v, and at higher speeds, we need to understand F is directly proportional to v square. Or simply you can understand drag force increases with speed. So drag force has to increase with speed. As speed is increasing, it has to keep on increasing. So B is incorrect because this is telling us it's as speed is increasing, the increase in F is getting smaller and smaller. So it means this is not possible. This is telling us first of all increase, then decrease. So this is also not possible. This is telling us as speed is increasing, this is decreasing. So this is also incorrect. So the best answer for this question is A. So as speed increases, drag force get bigger and bigger. So the answer for this question is A. Question 10 says an object of mass m moving at speed u along a frictionless horizontal surface collides head-on with a stationary object of mass 4m. After the collision, the object of mass m rebounds along its initial path with 1/4 of its kinetic energy before the collision. What is the speed of the object of mass 4m after the collision? So first of all, it is given to us this object is stationary, so we can write down u2 is equal to 0. And after clearing, it is given to us that m moves to the left in the opposite direction, rebound. It is given to us rebounds. We can say the speed of this one is v1. An object with mass 4m, this object has to move to the right because the force on this one is to the right. So we can say speed of this one is v, and we have to find out value of v in this case. It is given to us the final kinetic energy means 1/2 mv1 square. This is equal to 1/4 of initial kinetic energy, 1/2 mu square. So we can cancel 1/2 with 1/2, we can cancel m with m, so we left with v1 square. This is u square divided by 4, or we can say v1, this will be equal to u divided by 2. So this is the speed of object after clearance. So v1 is equal to u by 2. So we can update here, so this is u by 2. Now simply we need to use conservation of momentum. Momentum before has to be equal to momentum after, because in this case there is no net force acting on the system. So by conservation of momentum, we have to take one direction positive, we will be taking to the right as positive. So the momentum of this one is mu, momentum of this one is equal to 0, and momentum of this one we can say that is 4mv, and momentum of this one has to be negative because this is moving to the left. So we have in this case mu by 2. So this is mu by 2. We can rearrange, we can write down 4mv. This will be equal to mu plus mu by 2. So we can simplify this one. So we will get 3mu divided by 2, and here we have 4mv. So we have to find out value of v. From here we can cancel this m with this m, we can cross multiply, we will get 8v, this will be equal to 3u. So the v from here will be equal to 3u divided by 8. So this is the final answer. So this is our final answer. So the answer for this question is D, 3u divided by 8. A nice question. Simply first of all you need to understand how to calculate speed of m after clearance, then simply you have to use conservation of momentum. That's all for today's lesson. I hope this lesson was helpful. If this lesson was helpful, please like and subscribe because your encouragement is very important. And if you need more help, you can also join Patreon, and the link for Patreon is in the description of this video. See you in next video. Welcome to A-Level and EP Physics. In today's lesson, we will discuss past paper questions from May-June 2023, Paper 1, Variant 1. In today's lesson, our main focus will be on mechanics and waves questions. As always we do, we will discuss these questions in detail so you can improve your conceptual understanding of these topics, and also you can have better understanding of these exam questions. Let's study together, let's improve together. Question 11 says the driver of a car applies two parallel forces to a steering wheel as shown in the figure. Each force has a magnitude of 15 newtons and acts in the direction shown in the figure. The steering wheel has a diameter of 0.40 meters. What is the torque exerted on the steering wheel? So in this case, torque of a couple, simply we can calculate one force times perpendicular distance between forces. So we have to take perpendicular distance and we need to take one of the forces. These forces are equal in magnitude. So we can draw this line here. So this is line of action of one force, and we can also draw one line here. So this is over another force, and the perpendicular distance between these two, simply we can draw one perpendicular from here. So this line we can draw here. Now simply you can see in this case, if this angle is 65, this also has to be 65, and this side of triangle is 0.40 meters. So we are interested in this perpendicular distance, because you can see this angle is 90 degree, and here angle also will be 90 degree. So this is also has to be total 90 degree angle. So this side, simply you can find out, this will be equal to 0.40 sine of 65. So this is sine of 65. Now simply we can plug in values here, and we can find out torque of the couple. So the force we have, that is 15, and the distance we have 0.40 sine of 65. So if we solve this one, we will get 5.4 newtons meter. So there should be distance between the units. So if you write on 2 units, there should be little distance between them. So it has to be Newton meter. So if you write on like this, this is not right. But if you write on this one, this is right. Mean the prefix and the unit you can write close to each other, but when you write on 2 separate units, there must be little distance between them. So you can see these are 2 different units. So this is how we can calculate. So this one is right, but this one writing like this is not correct. So the answer for this one has to be D. So this is one way you can answer. Other way you can also use, that is, you can simply resolve these forces into components. Means we can resolve this force into 2 components. So we have vertical component here, we have horizontal component here. You can resolve this one into vertical component, and here it has horizontal component. And so in this case, due to horizontal component, there will be no rotation. So the rotation will be only due to vertical components. So this vertical component is 15 sine of 65 degrees, and this vertical component is also 15 sine of 65 degrees. And the distance between them, this distance, this is equal to the diameter. So we can draw this line here. So this is the perpendicular distance between these 2 component of forces, and this distance is 0.40. So in this case, our force, we have force time perpendicular distance. So the force is 15 sine of 65 degrees multiplied by perpendicular distance, that is 0.40. So if we solve this one, you will get 5.43 newtons meter. So the answer for this question is D. So you have 2 different approaches you can use. Maybe one of them sometimes will be easier to use, and other one will be a bit tricky. So you can use any method, your result will be the same. Question 12 says, a farmer is trying to lift the corner of a large water tank. She uses a metal rod as a lever. The vertical force from the farmer is constant and is always applied to the end of the rod. Which change must increase the upward force on the water tank? So for this purpose, simply we can assume, first of all, the force on the water tank is F1, and the force from the farmer, we can say this force is F2. So in this case, the product of F1 and D1 has to be equal to F2 D2. We are interested in F1, so we can make F the subject. So F1 has to be equal to F2 D2 divided by D1. For this question, it is given to us that F2 is constant because the force from the farmer is constant. So it means F2 is constant. Now, if you look at given options, for option A, it is given to us using a longer rod. Mean if we use a longer rod, we will increase D2 if we keep the pivot at this point. For the second part, it is given to us moving the pivot closer to the tank. Mean if we move this pivot closer to the tank, in this case we will decrease D1. So in this case, we are certain, means we are 100% confident that F1 will increase. It doesn't matter how much we increase this one, it doesn't matter how much we decrease this one, F1 will increase. So answer for this question has to be A. Now if you look at part B, it is given to us using a longer rod. Yes, this one will increase F1. moving pivot further away from the tank, this one will decrease F1, because in this case D1 will increase, so F1 will decrease because D1 will increase. So we don't know how much force will increase and how much it will decrease, so we don't know the exact numbers. So it means this is not possible. Using a shorter rod, this will decrease F1. Moving pivot closer to the tank, this will increase F1. But we don't know how much increase, how much decrease, so we are not certain. So this is not possible answer. Using a shorter rod, this will decrease F1. Moving pivot further away, this will also decrease F1. So this is also not possible answer. So the answer for this question is A. A nice question. Try to understand the logic. Question 13 says the diagram shows a ball of weight W hanging in equilibrium from a string. Equilibrium means that net force in any direction has to be equal to 0 and net moment about any point has to be equal to 0. So this is meaning of equilibrium. So this concept has to be clear to you. So these are two conditions for equilibrium. For this question, we need to find out which relationship between the magnitudes of T, P and W is correct. When we say F net is equal to 0, it simply means that forces, they should form a closed polygon, So forces should form closed polygon if net force is equal to 0. Closed polygon means that if there are 3 forces, they should form triangle, and if there are 4 forces, they should form rectangle, closed polygon. So triangle, it can be here, let's say, imagine this is one force, this is an other force, and the third force will be this way. So you see, in this case, net force is equal to 0. Now if you look at given forces, we have P and W. If this ball is in equilibrium, it means that the sum of these two forces, this one has to be equal to T. Magnitude has to be equal to T. So let's draw this one again. So the magnitude of these two forces, if we add these two forces together, has to be equal to T, equal in magnitude. So we can draw here. So this is our force W. So this one is W, and this is the sum of these two forces, mean the resultant of these two forces. So how we can find this resultant? Let's say this resultant is R. So R in this case has to be equal to P square plus W square and the root of this, because this is just a right angle triangle. And R in this case, we are talking about magnitude. So R you can replace with T, because the magnitude of R has to be equal to magnitude of T. So we have P square plus W square. We can also write down P and W in terms of T. So if you look at components of T, we have angle theta here. So this component will be T cosine of theta, and this component will be T sine of theta. So in this case, P has to be equal to T sine of theta in magnitude, but in opposite direction. So we have to take the square of this. And W has to be equal to T cosine of theta in magnitude but opposite in direction. So we can take the square of this one as well, because we are talking about magnitudes here. And question is also asking you to find relationship between magnitudes of T, P and W. So the answer for this question has to be C. Question 14 says which expression for pressure is correct? Pressure simply is equal to force over area normal to the force. So we can say normal to the force. So area normal to the force. So very important one. If you have question like this, let's say the force is at an angle, so you need to find out pressure due to this force. So you have to take the vertical component of the force that is perpendicular to the area. Means in this case, if this is force F, you will be taking F sine of theta. So the P in this case will be equal to F sine of theta divided by a contact area. So very important one. So the answer for this question has to be A. Question 15 says a ball has a mass of 0.50 kgs and a volume of 1.3 times 10 to minus 3 cubic meters. The ball is floating in equilibrium on still water. The two forces that act on the ball are its weight and upthrust due to the water. The density of water is 1.0 times 10 to 3 kgs per cubic meter. What is the percentage of the volume of the ball above the surface of the water? So in this case, first of all, we can imagine this one is the water. So here we have water and the ball is placed inside this water. So we can draw the ball here. And this ball is floating inside this water, and this part of the ball, this is inside water, so this is inside and this one is outside, and this is what we need to find out. We need to find out the percentage of the volume of the ball above the surface of water. So we have to find out this one. So in this case, there are two forces acting on the ball. One is the weight that is acting downwards and the other is the upthrust, and these two forces are equal in magnitude. So we can say here we have upthrust. So these two forces are equal in magnitude. So it simply means that in this case mg means the weight of the ball. This is equal to upthrust, and upthrust is equal to weight of fluid displaced. Weight of fluid displaced. So we can say this is mass of fluid displaced times g, and mass of fluid displaced, we can say this is equal to density of the fluid times volume of fluid displaced times g. And from here we can simply cancel this g with this g, and we can write here the mass of the ball. This has to be equal to density of the fluid times volume of the fluid displaced. And mass of the ball we can write down, this is density of the ball times volume of the ball. But in this case we no need to write down in terms of density and volume because directly the mass of the ball is given to us. So we can simply write down mass of the ball, that is 0.50, and density of the fluid we have, that is 1.0 times 10 to 3 kgs per cubic meter, and here we have this is volume of fluid. So we can find out from here volume of fluid displaced. Volume of fluid displaced, from here we can find out volume of fluid displaced in this case will be equal to 0.0005 meters cube. So this is the volume of fluid displaced, and we need to find out volume above the surface of water. We need to calculate percentage of the volume of the ball above the surface of the water. Percentage, so we can say percentage of volume above. So we can say volume above. So this one has to be equal to volume above divided by the total volume of the ball. So this one has to be the total volume of the ball. So volume above, simply we can find out volume of the ball. We can write down volume of the ball minus volume of the fluid displaced. So we have volume of the ball, that is 1.3 times 10 to minus 3 minus we have 0.005 divided by volume of the ball, and we have to multiply by 100. So volume of the ball is 1.3 times 10 to minus 3, and if we multiply this one with 100 we can find out volume of ball above the surface. So in this case, if we solve this one, we will get this is 62%. So this is the answer. A nice question on upthrust. For question number 16, we need to find out what is the work done by the tension force on the man and the buggy. And for this question, it is given to us the man and the buggy, they travel a distance of 20 meters. So we need to find out the work done by the tension force on the man and the buggy. So simply, this is very straightforward question. So the work done in this case will be equal to the component of tension. So tension has two components in this case. So one component is vertical, so we can draw this is vertical component, and another component of tension is horizontal component. So this is horizontal. So in this case we have to take component of tension in direction of displacement. So that component is this one. So this is t cosine of 40 degrees. So we can write on here, we have to take component of tension in direction of displacement times displacement, and displacement in this case is 20. So t in this case is 200. So we have 200 cosine of 40 degrees multiplied by 20, and if we solve this one, we will get 3.1 times 10 to 3 joules. So the answer for this question is B. Pretty straightforward question. Simply you need to understand work is equal to force times displacement in direction of force. So that's the key concept. Question 17 says a ball is thrown vertically upwards from the surface of the earth. Which statement describes the energy of the ball as it rises through the air? So in this case, simply we have a ball. So you can imagine we have a ball here. We can also imagine it is placed on the ground. So here we can take h is equal to 0. So this is our reference level. So GPE here will be equal to 0. Then kinetic energy of the ball at this point will be maximum. As this ball will rise, it will rise. So the change in GPE in this case will be positive, mean this will increase, or we can say change will be positive, or simply GPE will increase in this case. And change in kinetic energy will be negative, means kinetic energy will decrease. And when the ball will reach the maximum height, kinetic energy of the ball will be equal to 0 and GPE of the ball will be maximum. So these are the points we need to understand. Now if you look at given options, it is given to us the kinetic energy of the ball decreases. This is true. Potential energy of the ball decreases. No. Potential energy increases. So this is incorrect. Kinetic energy of the ball decreases. This is true because the change in kinetic energy will be negative. Potential energy increases. Yes, this is also true. So the answer for this question is B. If you look at option C, kinetic energy of the ball increase. This is incorrect. Potential energy decrease. Incorrect. Total energy of the ball increases. No. Total energy remains constant. So the answer for this question is B. Question 18 says a lamp is suspended in equilibrium from a fixed board by 3 identical wires. The weight of the lamp causes each wire to have an extension of 0.40 centimeters. The height h of the lamp above the floor is measured. The middle wire suddenly breaks and the lamp falls a small distance as the extension of remaining 2 wires increase. The wires obey Hooke's law. When the lamp is in equilibrium, the height h of the lamp above the floor is measured again. What is the difference between the two values of h? So first of all, we can imagine in this case, the weight of lamp is W. Let's say this is W. So the tension in each wire will be equal to W by 3. Now we need to understand Young's modulus. Young's modulus is equal to FL over A times delta L. From here we can write down delta L will be equal to FL divided by A times Y. But for this question it is given to us these wires are identical, so L is the same, A is the same, Y is also the same. So from here we can write down delta L is proportional to F. So these two quantities are proportional, or we can say in this case delta L over F, this is equal to constant. So simply we can say this is equal to constant. So in this case, first of all, F is equal to W by 3. So we need to find out new value of F. So we can write down here in a beautiful way. We can say this is delta L1 and here we have this is F1. And here we will have delta L2. This will be divided by F2. And for this question, we need to find out the difference, delta H. And delta H will be equal to delta L2 minus delta L1, means the difference between these two. Now we need to find out value of f2. In order to find value of f2, we can redraw this. We can redraw here so you can compare. Now we have two wires. They are extended more, so we can draw this one bit longer. So here we have the same weight hanging here, so this is W. Now we have only two wires, so the tension in each wire will be equal to W by 2. So in this case we can write down delta L2. This one has to be equal to delta L1 times F2 divided by F1. So we have value of delta L1, that is 0.40 centimeters. So this is in centimeters. And we have F2, that is equal to W by 2. So this is W by 2, and we have F1, that is W by 3. Now we just need to simplify. So we are already done with this question. So you see W we can cancel with W. So we left with 3 divided by 2 times we have 0.40. So if we simplify this, we will get 0.60 centimeters because we're using centimeter here. So this is value of delta L2. Now we can plug in here, so we have 0.60 minus we have 0.40. So the final answer we will get, that is 0.20 centimeters. So the answer for this question is A. So this is how you need to answer. Simply you need to understand what is new value of tension in the wire, and if you have new value of tension in the wire, you can find out new value of extension, then simply subtract. So the answer for this question is A. A beautiful question, and this technique is very useful. Tricky questions are based on this technique. Question 19 says the force extension graph for a spring is shown in the figure. What represents the work done to extend the spring? Work done, simply understand, work done is equal to force time displacement in direction of force. In this case, force is not constant. Force is changing with extension, so we have to consider average force times d. Average force, we have F is equal to 0, we have F is equal to maximum value, so we can say maximum value plus 0 divided by 2. So the average force by extension, we can say delta x. So we will get here 1 by 2 F times delta x. So it simply means that this area is representing work done. So this is simply equal to area under graph. So we can say area under the graph. So area under the graph is representing the work done under the graph. So the answer for this question has to be A. Question 20 says, in an experiment, a student uses a microphone and CRO to analyze a sound wave. The diagram shows the trace on the screen of the CRO. The student is expecting a sinusoidal waveform to be shown on the screen. Which changes should the student make to the time base and the Y gain of the CRO so that the screen shows a continuous trace for one complete cycle of the waveform? So in this case, student is expecting to see this on the screen, but student cannot see this on the screen. Means student cannot see one complete cycle of the wave. So it simply means that wave is very big. So how we can make this wave to be seen on the screen? One, we can make the screen of the CRO very big so we can see the wave. So let me write down here changes. So what changes we can make? So we can make screen very big, means we can have CRO with very big screen. So we can say make screen big. So this is one thing we can do, but this is practically not possible. The second thing we can do is we can compress the wave. We can compress the wave. We can compress the wave. So if we compress, we have to increase time base. So we have to increase time base, and we also have to increase y gain. So we have to increase this one, we have to increase this one. So in this way we can compress the wave. So for this question, simply answer has to be D. So we have to increase. So when we increase time base, it simply means that, first of all, let's say we have 2 millisecond per division, or it can be per centimeter. So let's say is mostly it is given in centimeter per centimeter. Now if we increase this one to 10 millisecond per centimeter, it simply means that we have compressed the wave, so we can see the full wave. And same is true for the y gain, means the voltage on y axis. So this is the voltage. So if y gain, for example, is, let's say this is 4 volts per centimeters, we can increase this one, let's say, to 12 volts per centimeter. So in this case we will compress wave along vertical, along y-axis. And if we increase the time gain, means the time base, so we will compress along x-axis. So in this case we can see the wave. A beautiful question, simply testing your real understanding of CRO. Is also testing, have you ever used CRO, or you have not used CRO in your practicals. If you have used CRO in your practical in physics lab, so this question is very basic one. Most of the time when we have to do any experiment about CRO, we want to see the sound wave, we adjust the time base and we adjust the y gain. So this question is about practical, means about lab. Have you ever used CRO, or have you ever not used CRO? So this is just testing your practical skills. So if we cannot see the wave on the CRO, what we used to do, we simply increase the time base and also we increase y gain. So then we can see the wave. Beautiful question, just testing your practical skills. I hope this video was helpful. We have discussed 10 very nice questions from this paper. I hope this video was helpful, and if this video was helpful, please like and subscribe, because your encouragement is very important. And rest of the questions I'll be uploading by tomorrow. And also, if you have any questions, please leave your questions in comments. And if video was helpful, like and subscribe. If you need more help, also join Patreon. And the link for Patreon is in description of this video. Welcome to A-Level and EP Physics. In today's lesson, we will discuss past paper questions from May June 2023, Paper 1, Variant 1. In today's lesson, we will talk about questions from waves, electricity, and radioactivity. As always we do, we will discuss these questions in detail so you can improve your conceptual understanding of these topics, and also you can have better understanding of these questions. Let's study together, let's improve together. Question 21 says the graph shows the variation with time of the displacement of a particle in a progressive wave. Two measurements x and y are labeled on the graph. What do x and y represent? So we have displacement on y-axis and we have time on x-axis. So it means x is the maximum displacement. So x is representing amplitude, because this is the maximum displacement of particle, amplitude. And this is the time period. So this is time period for one complete cycle. So for one complete cycle, time taken is time period. So this is one complete cycle, so this time is time period. So the answer for this question has to be A. Question 22 says a car travels at a constant speed along a straight line PQ. A loudspeaker attached to the car emits sound of constant frequency F. A stationary observer is at point O. What does the observer hear as the car moves from P towards Q. So first thing in this case, we need to understand the source is approaching observer. So this source is approaching observer. It means there is relative motion between source and observer. As there is relative motion, it means there is Doppler effect. So there is Doppler effect. Doppler effect. As the source is approaching, it also means that observed frequency, this has to be greater than frequency of the sound produced by source. And also we can look at this point. When the source is at this point, there is no relative motion between source and observer, because the source is not approaching observer and the source is not moving away from observer. So at this point, observed frequency, this one has to be equal to frequency of sound produced by source, because there is no relative motion at this point when the source is at this point. Now let's try to answer this question step by step. First of all, we will assume this angle is theta naught. Then this speed is v, mean this velocity is v. So we can resolve this velocity into two components. We can resolve into one component, this one. We can say this component is vx, and perpendicular component, this one at an angle of 90 degree, angle between vx and vy, let's say this is vy, angle has to be 90 degrees. So this angle is 90 degrees. So in this case, due to vx, there is a relative motion between source and observer, so we can write down Doppler effect formula. F observed, this has to be equal to the speed of the wave divided by speed of the wave minus the speed of the source, component of speed of the source that causes relative motion, means that component is Vx. So very important one, not only the speed of the source, you have to take component of the speed of the source that causes relative motion. So in this case, the relative motion between source and observer is due to Vx. So this component has to be Vx multiplied by frequency of the source. So we can rewrite this formula. We can write down, this is speed of the wave and this is divided by speed of the wave in the medium minus, this is Vx, so this is V cosine of theta, V cosine of theta, because Vx is equal to V cosine theta multiplied by frequency of sound produced by source. Now we need to understand how this theta is changing when the source is approaching observer. So for that purpose, we can imagine when the source is at this point, we can imagine when the source is at this point, we can imagine when the source is at this point. So first of all, when the source is here, so we can draw this line, we can give certain name to this angle, and we can also draw an other line when the source is at this point and when the source is at this point. Let's say this angle is theta 1, this angle is theta 2, and this angle is theta 3. So in this case, you can simply see theta naught, this is smaller than theta 1, and this is smaller than theta 2, and this is smaller than theta 3. So it simply means that when we are moving from point P to point Q, theta is increasing. As theta is increasing, so how about V cosine of theta? V cosine of theta. So first of all, we have to look at cosine theta. If angle increases, cosine of theta decreases. Let me write down in a little bit different way. So if theta increase, cosine of theta, this decreases. As cosine of theta decreases, it means that V cosine of theta, we can rewrite here. So V cosine of theta decreases. So these are the points you need to understand. And if you have understanding of these things, now we can go back to Doppler effect equation. So if you look at this, if this one decrease, how about overall this one? Overall this one will increase. So overall this one will increase. If overall this one increase, how about this frequency? Observed frequency will decrease. This is the main point you need to understand. So it simply means that at this point, observed frequency, this one is maximum. So let me use different color. Let me use red one because this point is very important. So at this point, observed frequency is maximum, and at this point, observed frequency, this is minimum. This is equal to frequency of sound produced by source. I hope that now you can see why these two frequencies are equal at this point. Let me explain you why they are equal at this point. So we can rewrite this formula. So we can say f naught, this is equal to speed of the wave divided by speed of the wave, means speed of the sound in the medium, minus component of speed of the source that causes relative motion. So that is v cosine of theta, multiply by frequency of sound produced by source. So in this case, now simply you can see this angle is 90. So what is cosine of 90 degrees? Cosine of 90 is equal to 0. So it means this term, this is equal to 0. Now you can see from here that f naught, this is simply equal to v, speed of the sound, divided by speed of the sound, multiplied by f. So in this case, they are cancelled. So we got f naught equal to f, a beautiful point. This is simply telling us if there is no relative motion between source and observer, there is no Doppler effect. Now let's try to summarize what we have discussed about Doppler effect. So for Doppler effect, we have discussed one very important point for this question, that f observed is always greater than f. When the source moves from this point to this point, f observed is greater than frequency of the sound produced by source. So this is one point. So you need this point to answer this question. And the second thing we have discussed, when the source moves from point P to point Q, observed frequency is decreasing, because here frequency is maximum, observed frequency is maximum, and here it is minimum. So this observed frequency is decreasing when the source moves from P to Q. So these 2 points you need to find the best possible answer, or simply we can say best possible option for this question. So if you look at option A, a frequency less than f, this is not possible. Frequency less than f, not possible. A frequency more than f, yes, that decreases as the car moves from P towards Q. So this one is our answer. A frequency more than f, yes, this is right. That increases, no, that decreases. So the answer is C. We have discussed a lot of points about Doppler effect. If you only understand this question, it means any question about Doppler effect, simply you can answer. Question 23 says, some sources of electromagnetic waves in free space are listed. Which list gives the sources in order of increasing wavelength from left to right of the waves emitted by the sources? For this purpose, simply we need to understand electromagnetic spectrum, order of EM waves in electromagnetic spectrum. One way to remember electromagnetic spectrum order is simply you can remember Granny's X box, use volts in my room. So this is one way to remember the order. So in this case we have here G, this is for gamma, so these are gamma radiations, X for X-rays, and U for UV light, and V for visible light. And visible light consists of 7 colors, and I for infrared, so we can write down this order, and M for microwaves, and R for radio waves. So we have to start with the smallest one. So one thing we need to understand, in this case, if we move from gamma to X-rays, means gamma to radio waves, mean if we go in along this line, wavelength is increasing. So the lambda in this case increasing. So lambda is increasing. Energy is decreasing. Lambda is increasing. So we can say energy of photon this decreases and frequency also decreases. So very important one you need to understand. So we have to start from the smallest one. In this list we don't have gamma, so it means the first one has to be X-rays. So this is X-rays. And the second one we don't have UV, we have visible light. So the second one we have visible light, so this one has to be the second one, visible light. And after visible light, this is 30 millimeter radar transmitter, because radio waves the lambda is greater than 1 meter. So the lambda of radio waves this is greater than 1 meter and so on. So it means this one has to be the third one and this one has to be the fourth one. So the first one, the number is 2, so it has to be 2. So the answer can be B, or answer can be C. And the second one has to be 4. So it means second one has to be 4. So this is right, this is right, this is right, this is right. And the third one has to be number 3, means this one, but this is telling you 1. So this is wrong, this one is right, so this is also right. So the answer for this question is C. Simply you need to understand order of electromagnetic waves in EM spectrum. Question 24 says a vertically polarized beam of light is incident normally on a polarizing filter. The transmission axis of the filter is at an angle of 40 degrees to the horizontal, and we need to find out the ratio between amplitude of transmitted beam and amplitude of incident beam. So simply in this case, the first thing you need to understand is that incident light is vertically polarized. So we can draw this vertical arrow to represent incident light is vertically polarized. And the second thing we can do is we can also draw the vertical line here. So this is representing vertical axis. And we can also assume in this case, let's say the intensity of incident light is I naught and intensity of transmitted light, this is IT. Now we need to use Malice's law. Malice's law simply tells us how transmitted intensity and incident intensity, they are linked with each other. So IT is equal to I naught times cosine square of theta. And theta is the angle between incident light. Very important one. This is the point you need to understand. Angle between incident light and transmission axis. So we can say transmission axis. So this is the main point. So in this case, angle between incident light, so this is incident light because this is vertical, and this is our transmission axis. So this one is transmission axis. So angle between these two, this angle is 50 degrees. So simply we can write on here IT is equal to I naught cosine square of 50 degrees. So if we solve this one, we will get IT, this is equal to I naught times 0.41. So we can also write down IT over I naught, this is equal to 0.41. Now this is not the final answer. We need to find the ratio between amplitude of transmitted beam IT over A naught. So we can say amplitude of incident light is A naught, amplitude of transmitted light is AT. We have to find ratio between AT over A naught. But we understand that IT, this is equal to K times AT square, and I naught, this is equal to K times A naught square. So now we can divide these two. So let's say this is equation 1, this is 2. So in this case we have IT, that is divided by I naught, and here we have this is AT square divided by A naught square. K will be simply cancelled, and this one we have already calculated. IT over I naught, this is equal to 0.41. that we need to find out 80. So we need to find out 80 over a naught. So we have to take square root on both sides. So this is 0.41. So we have to take square root of this one. If we take square root of this, we will get 0.64. So we will get 0.64. So our answer for this question is C. So this is how you need to answer. So let me highlight the points you need to understand for this question. This is one important point, the angle. You need to understand which angle you have to take when you use Malice's law. And the second thing you need to understand, how IT and AT, they are linked with each other. So if you understand these points, simply you can find the answer. Question 25 says, two progressive waves meet at a point. Which condition must be met for superposition of the waves to occur? The waves must be coherent. Coherent means that waves have constant phase difference and waves have same frequency. This is not requirement. This is not condition for waves to interfere with each other, to superpose with each other when they meet at a point. So this is not the requirement. The waves must be of the same type. Yes, because sound waves, they cannot interfere with electromagnetic waves. Electromagnetic waves, they can interfere with electromagnetic waves. And two types of sound waves, mean one has high frequency, one has lower frequency. They can superpose, they can interfere with each other at a point. So this condition need to be fulfilled. So the answer for this question should be B. The waves must be traveling in opposite direction? No, they can be traveling in the same direction. So this is not condition for superposition of the waves. The waves must meet in phase. This is also not requirement. They can be in antiphase. There can be any phase difference between them for them to superpose. So this is also not requirement. So the answer for this question is B. Only same type of waves, they can interfere with each other. Question 26 says, a string is stretched between a vibration generator and a fixed point. When the vibration generator is vibrating at a frequency f, a stationary wave with 5 nodes is created on the stretched string as shown in the figure. There is a node at the end of the string that is attached to the vibration generator. Means we have node at this point. The frequency of vibration of the vibration generator is slowly increased. The frequency of vibration is slowly increased. What is the next frequency that produces a stationary wave on the string? So this is a typical type of question about stationary waves. So let's try to understand how we can approach. First thing we need to understand, when we will increase the frequency, lambda of the wave will decrease, but speed of wave will not change. Very important point. Speed of the wave will not change, because speed of the wave, it depends on the medium and it also depends on type of wave. So speed depends on type of wave. So this is the point you need to understand. It depends on type of wave and speed of wave depends on medium. So as in this case, type of wave is the same and medium is the same, so it means speed is the same. So if we increase frequency, lambda will decrease. And also we need to understand lambda is, so the distance between two consecutive nodes, this is equal to lambda by 2. So in this case, how many loops we have? We have 1 loop, 2, 3 and 4 loops. And so for this one we can find the lambda. Let's say the length of this string will remain same. So we have length of string that is equal to L. So in this case, L is equal to 4 times lambda by 2, or we can say this is equal to 2 times lambda. So from here we can write down lambda is equal to L by 2. So this is our 1 lambda. We can say this is lambda naught, or it's better we can say this is lambda 1. So very important point, we will discuss some beautiful points here. So we can say this is lambda 1. Now how about the next stationary wave? Next stationary wave will form when it has 5 loops. So let me show you how the wave will look like. So this is how wave will look like. Now we have 5 loops. You can draw this one by yourself. So we have 5 loops here. So this is one loop, second one, third one, fourth one, and this is fifth one. So in this case, this is also lambda by 2, but this lambda is different. Now we can write on here, in this case L is equal to 5 times lambda 2 by 2, because this lambda is different now. Very important, lambda has changed. So this is what this was lambda 1, so this is lambda 1, so this is lambda 2. So lambda 2 from here we can write down, this one will be equal to 2 times L divided by 5. So this is lambda 2. But we have already discussed that in this case speed is constant. So we can say V1, this is equal to V2. So we have here lambda 1. We have F1, that is equal to F. This has to be equal to lambda 2 times F2. So F2 we need to find out. So we can say in this case F2 will be equal to lambda 1. So we can write down lambda 1 times F divided by lambda 2. So we have lambda 1, that is equal to L by 2. So we can write down this is equal to L by 2 times F divided by, this is 2L by 5, or we can say we have here LF by 2 multiplied by, we have 5 divided by, we have 2L. So in this case we can cancel this L with this L. So we left with, we can write on here, so F2, this is equal to 5 divided by 4 times F. So this is equal to 1.25 times F. A beautiful question and a beautiful technique to handle this type of problems. So our final answer is 1.25. So the answer for this question is A. So very important technique, speed remains constant. Then simply you need to figure out lambda 1, you need to figure out lambda 2, and speed is the same. Equate these two and you will find the answer. A beautiful question. Look at this question again and try to master this approach. Question 27 says, a ripple tank and a barrier with a single gap are used to demonstrate the diffraction of surface ripples on water. Initially, the wavelength of the ripples is 5 times smaller than the gap in the barrier. Which change increases the amount of diffraction observed? So we need to understand significant diffraction is observed when lambda is about equal to the gap size. And if we want to increase the diffraction, we have two options. We can increase the lambda or we can make the gap smaller. In this case, diffraction will increase. So we can say diffraction will increase, amount of diffraction increase. So in this case it is given to us lambda is smaller than, so lambda is smaller than gap. So if we want to increase diffraction, we have to increase this lambda or we need to decrease the gap. Double the amplitude of the ripples, it has no effect. Double the width of the gap, this will decrease diffraction. Halve the frequency of the ripples, it means increase the lambda, so this will increase diffraction. Halve the wavelength of the ripples, this will decrease diffraction. So the answer for this question is C, a typical question. So this is the concept you need to understand. If we want to increase diffraction, we have to increase lambda and we need to decrease the gap size. So half the frequency means lambda is double because speed of wave in the same medium remains the same. So the answer for this question is C. Question 28 says a laser produces a beam of light of wavelength 650 nanometers. The beam is incident normally on two slits that are a distance of 0.12 millimeters apart. A screen is placed parallel to the slits. The bright interference fringes on the screen have a separation of 7.5 centimeters. What is the distance between the screen and the two slits? So first of all, simply we can draw our double slit. So this question is simply about double slit. So here we have the screen. So in this case, the distance between these two slits is given. We can say this distance is A. So here we have the bright fringe. So this is the bright fringe. Then we have the first order bright fringe, second order bright fringe, and also here we have first order and we have second order. We also need to understand in this case the distance between two bright fringes, between any two bright fringes. So let's say this one, between any two bright fringes is X. And we can say the distance between screen and the slits, this distance is D. So this one is over screen. We have to find out in this case D. For double slit, we need to understand AX, this is equal to lambda times D. So D we need to find out. So this has to be equal to AX divided by lambda. And so in this case we have value of A. Slits, this value is given to us. So this is our value of A. And this one is over X. And this is lambda. So we have value of A, that is 0.12 times 10 to minus 3 because this is in millimeters. And we have value of X, that is 7.5 times 10 to minus 2. We have to convert into meters, and here we have 650 nanometers, 10 to minus 9. Now simply we need to solve this one. If we solve this, our final answer will be equal to 14 meters up to 2 SF. A typical question, simply you need to use this formula. That's all, and you need to convert units. So the answer for this question is D. Question 29 says a beam of light from a laser is incident normally on a diffraction grating. The diagram shows only the second order maxima that are produced. The grating has a line spacing of 1.0 times 10 to minus 6 meters. The angle between the two second order maxima is 110 degrees. We need to find out what is the wavelength of light. A beautiful question. So it simply means that if you pass light through diffraction grating, you can find out the wavelength of light. A beautiful way to find the wavelength of light. So in this case we are using diffraction grating. So simply we can imagine our screen is placed here. So this one is the screen. And in this case, we can also draw one line from the center. So it means here we will observe center maxima. Now we need to understand the formula for diffraction grating. D sine theta, this is equal to n times lambda. So in this case, we will have center maxima here, and then we will observe the first order, and then we will observe the second order. So here will be the second order, and here also we will observe the first order, and here we will observe second order. Now for this formula we need to understand what is this angle. This is the angle between center maxima and the next fringe. So it means we have to take this angle. So this has to be measured from center maxima. So this is the point. You have to measure from center maximum. So from center maximum. So we have to measure from here. So it means that this is half of the given angle. So this is 55 degrees. So that's all what we need to understand. For this question, we need to find out value of lambda. So we can say this is equal to d sine of theta divided by n. So in this case, n is given to us, that is 2, and value of d is given to us here, and angle is also given. So now simply we can plug in values. D in this case is 1.0 times 10 to minus 6, and we have sine of 55 degrees divided by 2. So if we divide this one by 2, we will get our final answer. So in this case, final answer will be equal to 4.1 times 10 to minus 7 meters. So this is value of wavelength. So this is how you can find out. So 4.1 times 10 to minus 7 meters. So the answer for this question is A. Only the key concept you need to understand, from where you have to measure the angle. Angle you have to measure from center maxima, means from this maximum. Question 30 says the electric current in a metal wire is 4.0 milliamps. How many electrons pass a fixed point in the wire in a time of 10 hours? A beautiful question, very nice question. We can simply answer this question, but if you don't have the clear picture of what is happening in this case, so that's not good. That is not physics. That is just using formula. So let's try to picture this one, try to depict this one. So we can draw this wire. So you can imagine this one is the wire, and current in this wire we can say is equal to 4.0 milliamps. Now if we look at one single point in this wire, let's say we look at this point for a time of 10 hours, how many electrons we will see passing through this point, or how many electrons we will count. How we can find the number of electrons we will see, if we can see, passing through this point. So let's try to answer now. So we can start with Q, that is equal to I times D, means the amount of charge passing through this point, and amount of charge will be equal to n times charge on single electron, and this is equal to IT. So for this question we need to calculate n, so we can write down this is IT divided by E, and value of I is given, that is 4.0 milliamps. So this is 10 to minus 3, and time is 10 hours, and 1 hour has 60 minutes, and 1 minute has 60 seconds, and we need to divide this one by the charge on single electron, that is 1.6 times 10 to minus 19. So if we solve this one, we will get 9.0 times 10 to 20 number of electrons passing through this single point. If current is this one, and we look at this point for this period of time, we will see this many electrons passing through this point. So try to visualize physics. Physics is beautiful. Physics is your way of thinking. Otherwise it becomes very boring if you just use the formula. Try to enjoy that. Try to develop your way of thinking. Physics is way of thinking. So the answer for this question is C. So C is the answer. Question 31 says, what is the definition of the potential difference across an electrical component? Potential difference simply is equal to the work done per unit charge. Work done per unit charge. So simply we can say work done per unit charge, or we can say this is the electrical energy transferred into other forms of energy per unit charge. So we can say electrical energy transferred to other forms of energy per unit charge in an electrical component. So if you look at given options, for option B it is given to us the energy transfer per unit charge. So this is the right answer. The charge per unit time, this is current, this is wrong. Force per unit charge, this is electric field, this is also wrong. Resistance per unit current, this is also wrong. So the answer for this question is B. Question 32 says, which graph shows the IV characteristics of a filament lamp? For a filament lamp, we need to understand how PD and current, they are linked with each other. Imagine that first of all we increase PD across filament lamp by this much. Arrow is representing the increase in magnitude of delta V. So increase in delta I, this one will be small. So let's say this is this much. PD and I, they will not increase by the same amount. Now the second thing, let's say we increase PD again by the same amount, and in this case increase in current will be even smaller. Now we again increase PD by the same amount, so increase in current, even we increase more, so increase in current will be even smaller. So this will be getting smaller and smaller. So this is the thing you need to understand about filament lamp. So what this is telling us, this is telling us that R is equal to delta V by delta I. For the same increase in PD, increase in I is getting smaller. It means the resistance of filament lamp increase with increase in PD. So how we can find the resistance? In this case, if you look at the gradient is equal to delta I by delta V. It means this is equal to 1 over resistance. So resistance from here will be equal to 1 over gradient. So as the resistance of filament lamp increases, so the gradient has to decrease. So we have to find a graph where gradient is decreasing. So this is not possible because this is for diode. It is gradient is increasing, this gradient is constant, and this is for metallic conductor, or we can say for ohmic conductor, or we can say for fixed resistor. And for this part we can take 2 points. Let's say we take 1 point here. So if we draw the secant line, and we can take an other point here. So in this case also gradient is increasing. So this is not for filament lamp. And if we look at this graph, we can take 2 points. Let's say we take 1 point here, and we can take an other point here. So these 2 points we can take. So in this case the gradient is decreasing, so it means resistance is increasing. So the answer for this question is D. A beautiful thing you need to understand about filament lamp, and most of the time students, they don't understand this one, or they have misconception about that. So try to master this. So the answer for this one is B. Question says a metal wire has a length of 2.50 meters and cross-sectional area of the wire is 4.50 times 10 to minus 6 meters square. The resistivity of the metal is equal to this. The wire is stretched so that its length increases to this one. The wire remains cylindrical and volume of the wire remains constant. Very important, volume remains constant. So what is the change in the resistance of the wire? So we need to calculate change in the resistance of the wire. So first of all, we can calculate value of R naught. We can calculate value of R naught in this case. So to calculate that one, simply we need rho L by A. So we can find out value of resistance. Then we can find out value of R nu, and R nu will be equal to rho times L nu times A nu. So we can find out value of R nu, and we need to find change in the resistance, means delta R. This will be simply equal to R nu minus R naught. So this is how we can figure out. So first of all, we have to find out in this case value of A nu. So this is value of L naught, and this is over A naught, and this one is the resistivity, and we have L nu. So simply we need A new. If we have value of A new, we can plug in values and we can find the answer. So we can write down this one, delta R, this is equal to rho L new divided by A new minus, we have this is rho L naught divided by A naught. From here we can take rho common, so we left with L new divided by A new minus we have L naught divided by A naught. We have all the values, only A new we don't have. In order to find A new, it is given to us volume remains constant, so it means that A naught volume is constant, so it means A naught L naught, this has to be equal to A new L new. So from here we can calculate A new, so this is equal to A naught L naught divided by L new. So we have value of A naught, that is 4.50 times 10 to minus 6, and value of L naught we have, that is 2.50, and we have value of L new, that is 2.65. and if we solve this one, we will get the final value of A new. So we will get, in this case, 4.2 times 10 to minus 6 meter square. So this is value of A new. So this is A new. Now simply we need to plug in values. Resistivity is 3.50 times 10 to minus 7. We have L new, that is 2.65. We have A new, that is 4.2 times 10 to minus 6, minus we have L new, that is 2.50 divided by 4.50 times 10 to minus 6, and if we solve this one, we will get our final answer, that is 0.024 ohms. So this is the change in resistance. So this is how you can figure out. There are few points you need to understand. This is the main point you need to understand. Volume remains constant, in also it remains cylindrical. So these are two assumptions. So you can calculate A new, then simply you need to understand, you need to find the difference. So the answer for this question is B. Question 34 says, which circuit symbol represents a microphone? If you look at option A, this is representing bell, and this is representing buzzer. So this is representing buzzer, and this is representing microphone. So microphone, and this is representing speaker. For this question, we need to find out circuit symbol for microphone. So the answer for this question is C. Question 35 says, a battery with internal resistance is connected to a fixed resistor, an ammeter and a voltmeter as shown in the figure. The battery is replaced by a different battery that has the same electromotive force but a greater internal resistance. What happens to the readings on the ammeter and voltmeter? So we can imagine this is R and this is capital R, and EMF of this one is E. So in this case, EMF has to be equal to I times small r plus capital R. So from here we can say I, this is equal to EMF over internal resistance plus resistance of load resistor. As in this case, value of this small r increases, EMF is the same, this is also the same, it means current has to decrease. So the ammeter reading will go down, and this value of V is equal to I times capital R. In this case, load resistor resistance is constant but current decreases, so the voltmeter reading also decreases. So ammeter reading will decrease, voltmeter reading also will decrease. So the answer for this question is A. A typical question also, so you need to understand this equation. Question 36 says, 4 potential divider circuits each consist of a battery of electromotive force 9 volts and negligible internal resistance connected to a combination of resistors. Each of the resistors in the circuit has a resistance of X R2X. Which circuit has the largest output voltage V? So for this purpose, we can draw one very simple potential divider circuit. So we can imagine we have just two resistors, they are connected in series. So this is our very simple potential divider circuit. We can say EMF of this power supply is V0 and it has no internal resistance. We can also assume this resistor is R1 and this one is R2. So if we need to find out the PD across first resistor, let's say V1, so V1 will be equal to R1 divided by R1 plus R2, because same current is passing through them, multiplied by V0. So this is how we can find out. So in this case, if R1 is big, it means V1 will be greater. The same principle we have to use. In this case, we have X here, so it means R divided by 2R, so this value will be half of this value, mean the same PD across this one, same PD across this one, so this value will be 4.5 volts. And in this case, we have 2X and this is X, so this PD will be divided into 3 parts. We can also use this formula, so we will get in this case V, this one will be equal to 2X divided by X plus 2X, means we will 2X, and this will be multiplied by 9. So in this case, we have 2X divided by 3X multiplied by 9. So we will get in this case 6 volts. In a beautiful way, simply you can understand potential will be divided into 3 parts, 2 parts across this one, 1 part across this one. So it means this has to be 6 volts. If we look at the total resistance of these two resistors, we can calculate the total resistance. So we can say R in this case, this will be equal to 2X times X divided by, we have 2X plus X. So here we will get, this is 2X square and here we have 3X. So we can cancel 1X with this one. So we left with 2 by 3X, or we can say this is about 0.66X. 0.66X. So the resistance of this one is 0.66X and this is X. So in this case, the PD across this one, this will be smaller than 6.0 volts. So this will be smaller than, you can calculate exact value, you can plug the numbers, you can find out, you can use this formula. And for this one, the resistance of this combination, this also will be equal to 0.66X. And in this case, the value of V, if we calculate, because this is 1X, this is 0.66X, so value of V, if we calculate here, this also will be less than 6.0 volt. So it simply means that we need to find out the largest. So the largest is across B. You can calculate the exact values simply using this formula. Question 37 says a voltmeter is connected into a circuit with the polarity shown. The sliding contact is moved to end P of the potentiometer and then to end Q. What are the two readings of the voltmeter? We can answer this question using two different methods. We can use potential method. We can also use KVL, Kirchhoff's second law. I have explained this question in October-November 2020 paper 1-2 using potential method, and also this question is a repeated question, same question you will see in October-November 2020 paper 1-2. I have explained in that paper using potential method, and now I will explain you the same question using Kirchhoff's second law. Mean this question using Kirchhoff's second law. According to Kirchhoff's second law, in any complete loop, delta V is equal to 0. This is based on conservation of energy. So in this case, first of all, we will consider when the sliding contact is at end P B. So we have to take one complete loop. So this is over complete loop now. So we will start from this point. If we go from positive to negative, in this case potential is decreasing, so the change in potential will be negative. So we will write down 3 volts, so this is negative, plus the reading on the voltmeter, so this is V, it has to be equal to 0. So it means V in this case, this will be equal to 3 volts. Now we have to consider when the sliding contact is at end Q, at this end. So let me draw this one in a proper way. So when this sliding contact is at this point, is at point Q. So in this case our loop is this now. So we are taking this loop. So this is our complete loop. So in this case, let's start from this point. So we go from positive to negative, potential is decreasing. So the decrease in potential, this will be negative, plus reading on voltmeter, so this is V, and in this case current will flow from positive terminal and current will go this way. So if we go in direction of current, we will lose potential. It means the potential will decrease, so the change in PD, that will be negative. So the potential drop across this resistor is equal to 3 volts. So this is minus 3 volt, and this one has to be equal to 0. So V from here means the reading on voltmeter, we can find out that will be equal to 6 volts. So the answer for this question has to be D. So this one is the answer. A very nice question. You need to understand how to use Kirchhoff's second law for this type of problems. A beautiful approach. I hope this one is clear to you. So you need to understand, if you go from positive terminal of the battery, means if you go this way, so we go from high potential to low potential. So the change in potential, so delta V, it has to be negative. So it means that PD, change in potential will be negative, so the PD will be negative. And if we go this way, delta V will be positive because the potential increase. So the change means the PD. Change means PD, change in potential, that is positive. And if we go in direction of current, let's say we have this resistor. So let me write down here. If we go in direction of current, PD will drop. Potential will drop. So potential will drop when we go in direction of current. It means that PD will be negative, means the change in potential will be negative. PD is change in potential, and vice versa is also true. Let's say we have this resistor and the flow of current is down, and we go in this direction, in opposite direction. In this case, potential will increase. So the change in potential means the PD, that has to be positive. So what is PD? Change in potential. If potential increase, it means PD is positive. If potential decrease, it means PD is negative, means the change in potential is negative. I hope these points are clear to you. So if you have understanding of these points, you can answer. So the answer for this question is D. And also please check this paper. Check this paper. You can find out another method to answer this question. Question 38 says a proton has mass m sub p and charge plus e. What are the mass and charge of an antiproton? So we need to understand particle and antiparticle, they have the same mass. So first thing we need to understand, particle and antiparticle, they have same mass and they have opposite charge. So this is the point you need to understand to answer this question. Same mass and opposite charge. So the mass has to be same. So answer has to be CRT. And this is the charge on proton. So the charge on antiproton has to be negative. So the answer for this question is D. Particle and antiparticle, they have the same mass and other properties are opposite. It means charge is one other property. So charge also has to be opposite. Question 39 says a uranium nucleus has 92 protons and 143 neutrons. The nucleus emits a total of 3 alpha particles and 4 beta minus particles to form nucleus X. How can nucleus X be represented? So first of all, we have uranium nucleus. It has 92 protons, meaning its atomic number is 92, and the mass number is the sum of these two. So we have 92 plus we have 143, so the mass number is 235. So we can write on here 235. It forms nucleus X and it emits 3 alpha particles. So we have 3 alpha particles and it emits 4 beta minus particles. So in this case, atomic number has to be conserved. So we can write on here atomic number of this one. So this is atomic number of this. So it emits 3 alpha particles, mean it will decrease by 6. So this has to be 6 minus, so this is 4, so this has to be 4. So it simply means that atomic number decreases by 2. So this one has to be 90. So it has to be 90. Sum of them has to be equal to this one. So it means this has to be 90. So the answer in this case can be D, or answer can be A. Now we need to look at mass number. So we have 235. So this is the mass number of X. So this is what we need to find out. Plus mass number decreases by 12 and there is no change in mass number because this is 0. So it simply means that 92, we have 235 minus 12. So we will have 3 here, and 5 minus 2 we will get 3, and 3 minus 1 we will get 2. So 223. So this has to be 223. So we can make it a little bit bigger and we can write on here, this one has to be 223. So the answer for this question is D. So this is how you can answer. I hope this question is clear to you. Question 40 says, which statement about a proton is correct? Proton consists of 3 quarks. It consists of 2 up quarks and it consists of 1 down quark. So proton is baryon because baryons, they consist of 3 quarks or anti-quarks. And proton is also hadron. So proton is also hadron. So proton is baryon and proton also belongs to hadron family because they experience strong nuclear force. So proton is baryon and proton also belongs to hadron family because protons experience strong nuclear force. Leptons, they do not experience strong nuclear force. So if you have understanding of this one, you can find the answer. A proton is a baryon. Yes, this is right. Not a meson. Yes, this is also correct. So the answer for this question is A. A proton is a meson. No, this is not correct. But not hadron. This is also incorrect. It is a hadron. A proton is both a hadron and a meson. No, it's not a meson. A proton is both a meson and a baryon. No, it is baryon. Particle can be baryon or particle can be meson because meson, they consist of quark and antiquark. Baryon, they consist of 3 quarks or 3 antiquarks. And that's all for today's video. So the answer for this question is A. I hope this video was helpful. If this video was helpful, please like and subscribe. And if you need more help, you can also join Patreon. The link for Patreon is in the description. And if you have any questions, please leave your questions in comments and I will try to answer as soon as possible. See you in next video.